Welcome to What's the Purpose of It, the podcast where we challenge the current work paradigm and explore how to shift from competition to regeneration, from stress to purpose. Let's rethink work together.
That we are not alone, that we're not separated, we're not superior, we are collaborators. We have to pick up our duty and be responsible for all of our actions. Whatever I think, feel, and act is reverberating on that web to everyone else. So I'm responsible to be calm, to be in a state of love, low ego, small ego, so that I can receive all the energy of wisdom that comes from outside of us. And our average age of weaning for our species, according to all the research done around the world, is mind-blowing, 4 years. 4 years of breastfeeding. It's important for building the brain properly. It's got all these ingredients. We hardly understand it, but they build intelligence. Global warming is happening so rapidly. The pollution of all kinds, plastics, also fuel, byproducts, and all the things happening. We have to wake up. We are earthlings. This is our responsibility. We're the animal that can make choices. We're the animal that can guide the natural world back into a balanced life enhancement instead of life destruction.
Today, we're joined by Dr. Darcia Narvaez, Professor Emerita of Psychology at the University of Notre Dame, award-winning author of The Evolved Nest, and a global expert on child development, morality, and human flourishing. Welcome to the podcast. So, Darcia, thanks a million for joining me today on talking about what's the purpose of the Evolved Nest. But first of all, I would need you to explain to us a bit, what is the Evolved Nest? What are the principles that lay behind it?
Right. Well, the Evolved Nest is the developmental system for the young that we, our species, developed over millions of years. And it matches a lot of other animal nests, too, in many ways. And it's set up to optimize normal development. So that means, it's designed to match up with the maturational schedule of the young. So in babyhood, lots of carrying, for example, is needed for the baby to grow optimally, because our babies are about 2 years it takes to resemble the newborns of other animals. So we really, we need to treat the baby until about 2 years old like she's or he's a fetus. So that means immediate needs met, no distress, no frustration, just because the brain is growing so quickly every second that the systems are designing themselves, their personalities being designed, how agreeable they're going to be or disagreeable if they're frustrated too much, right? So anyway, so the first two components of the 9 that we've studied, based on our ancestral context. The 9 components come from hunter-gatherer civilization, which is where we spent 99% of our existence as a genus. So, and 95% as a species, if you want to get into the detail. But so that means they really worked for our ancestors, that it was adaptive, that helped them survive, thrive, reproduce, and carry on, right? To bring us into existence ourselves. So these 9 components, the first 2 are just for the young. So that's soothing perinatal experience, a pregnancy where the baby is feeling supported, the mother is feeling supported. In order for that to happen, she has low stress. She feels welcoming feelings towards the baby. All that is biochemistry that helps the baby grow in a healthy way. If she's stressed, then that baby's going to grow a stress-reactive brain. We know this already. And then birth period is soothing as well. There's no separation of mom and baby. They're together because their bodies are ready to just meld to each other after a natural birth. And then the reward systems in their bodies, and they have been mobilized for birth, and now they calm each other down. And then you want to expand the sense of supports for mom and baby beyond mom, right? So the baby actually extends a sense of attachment to the community and to the natural world. But so that's soothing. That's the first one, soothing perinatal experiences. The second one is breastfeeding. Our species has very thin milk, and it's important for building the brain properly. It's got all these ingredients. We hardly understand it, but they build intelligence. They build healthy, not getting obese or diabetes or all sorts of things. Um, and our average age of weaning for our species, according to all the research done around the world, is mind-blowing. 4 years. 4 years of breastfeeding. I know. It's
Oh,
like a
I thought
modern.
it's two.
Well, two is the low end, the range of in our
Mm.
hunter-gatherers, among hunter-gatherers is 2.5. Peaceful societies provide 2.5 years, and they carry their kids around too. And then, the average is 4, which means some societies go beyond that. And it mostly means night nursing as the child gets older. And that's related to intelligence development because night milk has the sleep-inducing hormones, but also the ones that are precursors to serotonin, which is the related to intelligence and not getting depressed. So anyway, so it's
Wow.
really interesting how breast milk is shaped for the needs of the baby, which sex they are. It's a different kind of milk. Morning milk is different than evening milk. So energizing in the morning, sleep inducing in the evening. So you have to make sure if you're pumping, you label your bottles, all those things.
Never
Anyway,
did that.
yeah. And it produces, the mom's breasts produce an antibody for any infection in the region that's picked up from the baby's saliva. So it's just amazing of laboratory, science laboratory. Okay, so those are the first two for just the young children. The rest of them we all need. We all need a welcoming social environment where we feel like we matter, we belong, we have something to contribute. We also all need affectionate touch, hugs and sharing, handshake, whatever it is the person feels comfortable with, and no negative touch, because that actually in childhood misdirects development. It makes the baby not follow their inner compass of unfolding beauty and uniqueness, and instead gets focused on, oh, I can't do things because I'm going to get punished, and
Yeah.
you lose your track of your uniqueness. Then there's self-directed play, free play with others, and that means running around and climbing trees and playing various wrestling together, various games. And then there's multiple nurturers. We all need mentors throughout life, but especially in babyhood when babies need 24/7 caring, affectionate touch. They need that for their body and brain to develop properly. You can't do that alone as a mom. This is very abnormal for our species to have just a mom or even just mom and dad taking care of a baby. No, it's a village. It's a extended family. It's the neighbors. So it doesn't always have to be related people can. And then there's responsive relationships, which I've hinted at. So in babyhood, that means keeping the baby calm so that the biochemistry is appropriate for healthy development. If the baby's stressed, then the wrong things grow, or there's things that are supposed to be growing at that moment don't grow, and you have gaps in your brain that show up later, maybe in adolescence, and you're depressed or suicidal or anxious because the brain tries to compensate for things that are missing. And until adolescence or early adulthood, then the early foundations, there's nothing there. And anyway, things go awry. Two more, two more. One is nature, immersion, and connection. And we co-evolved with the natural world and we need it for our mental health, to be out in green spaces next to water, flowing water. It helps us stay connected. And we want to have that kind of experiences, especially early on, so we feel like we're partners with nature instead of dominators. I'm going to control, and in our ancestral context and indigenous wisdom is to feel as a partner and to know how to be a partner with the natural world. We've lost a lot of that because we don't give children enough experience, and we don't have it either. And so we have to do a lot of remediation. And that's the last one, restorative healing practices. because we get out of balance mentally, physically, relationally, get confused, and we need hopefully communal experiences of joy and healing and hands-on and dancing and drumming and singing together in order to get back in balance and feeling connected to the universe, because we're here as earthlings, but we are part of the universe, and we go with the flow of becoming and moving through the life forces.
I was just listening to you and I had this conflict inside myself. I was, first of all, at awe for hearing the truth, like the body reacts to the truth. And then I was mad because it seems that we've built a world that doesn't support any of the things you just told me. Last year in March, a year since we've had our report on what's the purpose of the mother in the workplace in Romania, and the findings we had there were awful. Like a lot of mothers reported very high stress, more than 120 hours a week per month, 120 hours per month, just to take care of the house, the baby, by herself. Like 98% of them said they do not receive help from the spouse, from the community, or from their mothers, the grandmas. And I have to say that I relate to that. I was a single mom for a few years, and I literally had no one but myself and my child, and I had to work 4 jobs. And sometimes I even had days when I was so tired, I couldn't remember her name. I was looking at her, I wanted to call her, but I just couldn't remember her name. I was that exhausted. And I have to say that I work with a lot of people, and I work in career counseling, I work in HR, I do a lot of workplace diagnosis. And I find a lot of people, a lot of women that are going through very harsh times, taking in consideration the moment when they become mothers. So in Romania, we have this law that allows you to stay for 2 years at home, which I find amazing. It's a maternal leave for 2 years.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Really good. But then again, we have the law, but I feel that we're lacking the cultural background to know what to do with this time.
Yeah.
So what do we do when mothers are so tired and overwhelmed? Like, we asked them, how do you feel most of the time in your life? And they told us overwhelmed, tired, and anxious. So how can we as parents, women as parents from this state, do everything you just told me? It seems almost impossible, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think there needs to be some education of child development, right? For those 2 years, so that you can actually move into having the nestedness with your child. And that would include then one of the difficult ones to talk about is co-sleeping or bed sharing. You can do that safely. I mean, that's what we've done for millions of years. Why all of a sudden can we not do it anymore?
Because the child needs to be independent.
No, see, that's the misunderstanding. You've just done the opposite. You've just made them anxious for life. If you leave them alone, a baby alone doesn't have the co-regulation, doesn't have those self-regulation capacities they learn it from you, your body presence, right? That they learn how to breathe properly. They learn how to control themselves. When you calm them down immediately, their system then gets used to, oh, I can calm down immediately. If you don't calm them down immediately and you leave them to cry, their system goes, oh, I got to scream to get my needs met. And they'll be loud and obnoxious and hard to control because their system hasn't been regulated by you, by the caregivers, right? So it's a misunderstanding that you have to make independence. That's a crazy, crazy idea. Punishment, too, of children, isolating them, hitting them, slapping them, all that is a misunderstanding of how you grow a healthy person, a person who cares for others, who's cooperative. It's by meeting their needs immediately. You have to learn to recognize the signals. So you don't wait for a baby to cry. You notice when they start to wiggle or make a face that something is feeling painful to them. You move in and try to figure out what it is and calm them down.
they give you like some sort of notification. Hey, I'm about to, so please give me. I was wondering, what are the signs that we step away, very far away from everything you just told me that it's natural actually to us? What's happening now in the modern world? And since when do we do that? When did we decide that this is the good, cool, whatever thing to do?
Yeah, that's a very important question. That's people disagree about how it all started that way. The way to talk about it, the evolved nest. I think that when we started to move into domesticating animals, growing monoculture agriculture, people had to focus their attention on those things and not on child raising. And there's various other factors where the lack of protein, for example, from in hunter-gatherer communities, you eat a lot of protein. You don't in agricultural communities, a lot of grain, and that increases fertility, and you have more children. And when you have more children, you can't give as much attention to any one particular. And breastfeeding would go down, the length, the caring, less responsiveness. I mean, you leave your baby on a hook so you can go into the field. So then what happens is you develop people, the children, into people who get used to being alone and expect that because their systems aren't used to being intimate with others. And then you start to rationalize it. And you're also very dysregulated. All these people are dysregulated because you didn't get the co-regulation during sensitive early times, early periods. And then you have to rationalize that. Why are people so, aggressive and selfish? Well, that's not normal for a species, but it is if you undercare for them. You don't provide the nest. And so you make up stories about, oh, original sin. It's that we're just born evil. No, you're not. That's what you've done to babies. You've made them so dysregulated. They seem like they're, little devils, supposedly, but they're not. You've done it. So the culture just slided into all these kind of myths about it. And then to force children to obey. This is very Nazi oriented. They wanted to break the spirit of the young child when before you're verbal, the first 3 years. And then you control them for life. They're going to be conformists because you've spanked them into fearfulness, and all sorts of neurobiological things happen. You dissociate from your body. You get very not present, and you just follow, you conform. So this is the authoritarian playbook that we've been doing to our children for a long time. And you can see the results now in the United States where authoritarians are taking over. And that's what happens when we have about the worst place to raise a baby is the United States, other than a war zone.
Wow, I did not know that.
In my view, because it
Oh.
so violates the evolved nest.
Oh, wow. Well, again, I'm listening and I have this very big conflict inside of myself. It's so awkward. But I was thinking of the mothers, and as you are talking, I think I feel some guilt here and there because there are things from everything you said. A lot of the things you said, I don't think I followed when I was a mom. I was a young mom, 21, and I was a kid with another kid. I think that's probably the best way to describe it. So I'm now thinking of all the women that are going to listen to this, and I think the first thing we're going to feel is guilt. What have we done to our children?
But
How
it's
do
not.
we manage that?
It's not your fault. It's the system who's forced you, has under-nurtured you, under-supported you. You're understaffed, right? You don't have enough support so that you can actually be a mother, a nurturing mother. And so it's the system to be angry at, not yourself,
I'm
right?
very good at being angry with the system. I'm doing this for a few
Yeah,
years. I'm going
yeah.
to channel more anger over there. But let's be practical about it. Where do we start? With parents. I know this is an episode for mothers on the 8th of March, but I don't want to separate us more, moms, dad, who's more right, who's more involved. We're all parents. We're all trying to grow the next generations. And we should also be aware that we need to just give them a world a little bit better than we found it. So where should we start? Okay, the world is as it is. The system is as it is. We cannot change what happened until now, but what can we do from here onwards? What would you advise us?
Yeah. Well, it sounds like there needs to be parent education about early childhood needs for those first 2 years when you actually have parental leave. We have no paid parental leave in the USA. It's one of the 2 countries that don't have it, which is insane. But racism has a lot to do with that. And so you have an opportunity there to set up parent education, and I'm happy to help on the Evolved Nest and what babies need. And, to be responsive and follow that inner compassionate heart of the parent. Now, birth experiences can break that in a parent. There's 2 kinds of attachment systems: the child's attachment to the mother, feeling hopefully like and to father too, to the caregiver, hopefully developing a secure attachment where they're reliable and I feel like I can signal and they respond, that's secure. But the parent has a attachment system too, the caregiver attachment system, which is going to kick in hopefully during pregnancy, but then right after birth, the baby on the skin to skin on the mom, on the dad. Oh my God, you go, oh, wow, we're one. We are
Yeah.
together. We are a family. So we have to make sure that the birth practices are not interfering with those things, those attachment things. And then at home, don't treat the baby like you're in the hospital. Don't put them in their own room. Or their own bed, sleep at the beds in a safe way, bed sharing, and be there. And once you invest in the child in those first 2 years, you're going to have a pleasant, cooperative personality, a healthier child. So breastfeeding, get help with breastfeeding. It's hard the first time, especially, or even after you've done it before. If it's been a few years, you need some expert advice on that. And if you can't do it for some physiological reason, there should be milk banks and wet nurses and other people to help. In our ancestral context, often it's multiple mothers that breastfeed the child, so it's not just
That's so
one.
interesting.
Yeah.
So it really takes a village to raise a child, but we've lost the village
Yeah, that's
because
right.
a
The
lot.
village is off working because somehow we think that working is what it means to be a person, a human being. But no, it's to be a human being is to be happy, to flow with life, to honor natural world, to live in such a way that actually enhances everybody around you, enhances the trees, the rivers, the mountains, the people in your community, not me, and work, which we've created now in the last few hundred years.
Well, I have done a lot of work in the past few years to bring over this idea that in the center of our lives should be us, not our work. It's a process, I think, where
Mm-hmm.
I see people being more responsive to this, and I'm a reformed workaholic, so I really know what I'm saying, that work was everything, because work was actually the only way I could have survived with my daughter when we were by ourselves. And to a certain extent, work saved me, but then it also buried me. So I also believe that work it's a great way to manifest who you are, but it's not the only way. We have so many other things to do, and fortunately just 24 hours a day. We discover there are more and more things to do in life, but the day stayed the same, 24 hours, and we have to hit them all. But I have to ask, since most of my work is in a workplace context, and I have to admit that even our meeting, although I love the conversation, I'm not into parenting, and I really don't think I'm capable of giving advice there. So most of my conversations are going towards the workplace. And one of the things I'm obsessed about is the mental health at work, especially for mothers. And I'm going to tell you why. At some point, last year, I was discussing with an entrepreneur, and he was complaining, like, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, these kids are the worst. They don't work. They don't do nothing. So you know the story. My question to him was like, what did you do 20 years ago for all of your women employees to make sure that they take care of their children in such a way that they're going to have a work ethic in 20 years when they're going to come to your interviews? And he was kind of bedazzled. He didn't have an answer. And that's when I started asking companies like, okay, I understand we're in this system that we have to work. Unfortunately, education, for a while, education was like forming us into being docile citizens. And now with education is obsessed in making us really good workers. But nowhere in between these two, they never talked about the fact that we're actually human beings. They actually feel like education took away the fact that we're human beings and gave us this societal roles, and that's it. You identify with this, and this is your label for the rest of your life. So I started advocating a lot for this. We are human beings before anything, and at work, including at work, we need to put mental health at the center of the organization, because I actually believe that people that would listen to us, if they are stuck in depression, if they're stuck in anxiety, they're not going to be able to take any of the things we just talked here, because there's no space for an evolved nest when they have to survive another day. So what would be your recommendations for workplaces in the systems we have created, which I feel they're so huge right now? I don't know how could we take them down or anything, but how can we make it better with what we have right now?
Well, we are in complex systems, and complex systems will change all of a sudden when there's a lot of changes around the edge. So don't give up hope. All right. So let me just say about the family too. I'll come to the workplace, but even if you now have older children and whatever, there are things you can do now with your children that can heal the missing maybe stuff from earlier in their lives. You can
Great news.
huh?
That's great.
Yeah. So, and one of the things is affectionate touch. So you can cuddle on this couch, the sofa, wherever you are, and read a book together or watch a television show or something together. You can high five and just make times and figure out what works for the child, and in that way. Play is another one that's always healing throughout life. It can regrow your intelligences, your social, emotional intelligences, your empathy. And so find ways to play with your children, especially physical whole play, dancing, and put on some music and everyone dances. Things like that you can do regularly, and that will help you calm down together and reconnect. Now, in the workplace, I think the nest can be brought there as well. Now, for um, mothers with young children who are still breastfeeding, there should be babies to work. Babies to work. There are organizations in the United States that advocate for that and help businesses figure out how to, make it possible to bring your baby to work. So, when babies are well cared for, they're not noisy and crying all the time. Nested baby is a calm baby. So that would be for the children. You could have play areas and childcare in the building or whatever. But in terms of the adults, you can also be nested. So make sure you have a welcoming climate where everyone feels like they're needed, they belong, they have something to contribute, they matter. You can have affectionate activities too, and make sure you shake hands. I mean, this is very Latina to do the handshaking all the time and to greet people and give hugs. I mean, all accordingly, to the person's interests, and no abuse or anything. And then incorporate some play into the workplace as much as you can. Figure out how to do that. It varies by what kind of work it is, and make sure people have mentors, someone who's a senior, who's, a nice person, a wise person that helps the younger, and then bring in nature. Make sure you have plants around, or even dogs in the workplace, or you beautify with even Photographs of mountains helps. I used to do that when I was a graduate student in a cubicle. I would bought pictures of landscapes so I would feel like I was outside, even though I was in this little cubicle. And then restorative practices. So have some way of healing when there's some distress or anger in the workplace. Have conflict resolution strategies that honor each person's position and perspective and try to bring them back together in a working relationship.
What I'm hearing right now is build the village in the office.
There you go. Yep.
So we don't need organizations, we need professional villages.
I like that. Yeah.
That might be an option, at least for a while, probably.
Yeah.
That sounds amazing. And
yeah, let's write a book about it.
Yeah. Don't say it twice. Told you I'm a reformed workaholic, but it
oh. Yep.
So we need to bring the village in the office. I absolutely love this. I keep on talking about professional communities more and more. The idea of community to me, it's what kind of saved my mental health, nature and community. Without these two things, I don't think I would have been even alive today. It was really that hard. Yeah. So we're getting ready to put this conversation to a closure, but I'm pretty sure we're going to have much more. You're not going to get rid of me that easily, apparently. I think for the end of the conversation, I would like you to bring a bit of the underlying message of your work. Like, if you look at everything, what are you calling us all to?
Very important. Yes. Well, we are, as a species, destroying our habitat. We are crazily destructive right now because we've set up systems that are anti-nature, essentially, and our families are anti-nature, the way we force parents to not nurture their children. But that's true for everything almost we do. The system is killing us and killing the planet. The planet will survive. I mean, there's a lot of organisms, but our species is going to go over the cliff and disappear, and with a whole bunch of others, because global warming is happening so rapidly, but also pollution of all kinds, plastics and fossil fuel byproducts of all kinds, and all the things happening. We have to wake up. We are earthlings. This is our responsibility. We're the animal that can make choices. We're the animal that can guide the natural world back into a balance of life enhancement instead of life destruction. So that's the underlying message. The evolvedness is critical for bringing us back to our heritages, which means we have to be humble about it. We need to stop thinking we're superior, we know better than all nature, and we can control it. And that's crazy stuff. And you need good information. You have to pay attention to good science. Not all, science has its limits, but indigenous wisdom, these people have known, and indigenous First Nation groups and wise elders have known for a long time that we are going in the wrong direction and have advised various ways of restoring ourselves. And that's one of our books, Restoring the Kinship Worldview. We have to get back to realizing we're one with the earth, that we are not alone, that we're not separated, we're not superior, we are collaborators. So we have to pick up our duty and be responsible for all of our actions. And I talk about how each of us is like a spider on a web. So whatever I think, feel, and act is reverberating on that web to everyone else. So I'm responsible to be calm, to be in a state of love, low ego, small ego, so that I can receive divine energy from the universe, all the energy of wisdom that comes from outside of us. It's not in our head going around in circles. It comes from outside, and I need to be tuned into that and help others tune into it. And then we are cooperators with nature, and the nature loves us. Mother Earth loves you. The
And
universe
I love
loves
her
you.
back.
Yeah, so appreciate it and live in love.
Yeah, it sounds like just truth. And that's so simple. And um, I'm just thinking at the moment in Romania, there's a huge split between science and spirituality.
Mm.
So what you just said now would probably in Romania be taking under the spiritual discourse. But I'm just thinking like this is so science and spirituality together, and it
Mhm.
makes so much sense. And I'm really hoping more and more people are going to attune to this kind of messages in time. Thanks a million for your time, for your wisdom, and for all the work that you do that reaches us in all the corners of the world. And I really hope we're going to get the chance to talk more about everything you do.
Me too. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining What's the Purpose of It? Until the next time, keep challenging the rules, rethinking the norm, and building workplaces where purpose leads the way. See you soon.